it because I'd love to record this if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Okay. I've read your book and I've listened to your podcasts. You're a delight to listen to.
Well, thank you.
And I have your lovely book here. So I guess I'd love to start with the really obvious question about how does it feel to be 102 years old?
Well, like, I don't remember how it felt when I was in kindergarten. It feels like I'm alive and it's good and life is still exciting and so on. So it's not, it's certainly not dreary. It's very amazing.
That's beautiful. And tell me when you were a little girl. So I listened and heard you were dyslexic when you were younger and you struggled at school. Yeah. What did you think you were going to grow up to do when you were that little girl?
I knew I was a doctor.
How did you know?
Well, it's because my dolls got sick and my sister wouldn't let me play with her dolls because her dolls weren't supposed to get sick. And I had to play with my dolls because they always had to have something fixed. And I told my parents when I was 2 that I was a doctor. And I have 4 little great granddaughters who have said the same thing.
Really? Genetic.
Yeah. And well, some families are painters and some people are teachers, and our family are in medicine.
Well, and you studied medicine, I believe, around World War II time.
In the middle of it, as it started, I started my medical school in September, and the war started in December, and it lasted all the way through while I was in medical school.
Wow. And how many women did you study medicine with?
Well, I was in women's medical college, the only medical college in the country. The other medical schools let 1 or 2 women in, maybe a little more, but otherwise this was the only school for women. Wow. And we started with 50 students in the class, and only 25 of us graduated because the concept was that we had to be tougher and smarter and all of that than the men, because we were going to face it when we got out in the world. So if anybody was having any trouble with, they just didn't make it through medical school.
And so what would you say your career highlight has been?
I found out that what medicine, the way it's practiced, is not what I consider the way I choose to do it, because everything in the field of medicine is directed towards just getting rid of diseases and dealing with pain. And I don't see it that way. I see it as the diseases and pain and other issues that come to us as ways in which we are teaching ourselves what our life is about. They're all there for lessons. They're all teachers. And so I don't see the I see the importance of dealing with the pain. I see the importance of dealing with the diseases, but not of trying to just get rid of them.
So talk to me a little bit about that and how pain is a teacher.
Well, pain, well, let me tell you a story. Stories tell things. I had a patient that I was working with for quite some time, and she was continually had shoulder pain, this one shoulder pain, and she'd gone to see different specialists, and so she still had that shoulder pain. And I'd been working with her for some time, and really didn't have the answer for her until she was ready to leave. and she picked up her purse and put it over that shoulder, and down went her shoulder. And so to me, I had not been asking her body or herself what it was that was doing it. She just was, we were all not really looking at the source of where this was coming from. And when I told her she had to change her purse, her pain went away.
Pretty simple, really, when you think about it, isn't it?
Yeah, looking to what each issue teaches you. My oldest son is a retired orthopedic surgeon, and when he came through Phoenix on his way down to Del Rio, Texas, he was going down there to start his practice. He said, "Mom, I'm going into the world. I'm going to have people's lives in my hands." He says, I don't know. I don't think I can handle that. And I said, "Well, Carl, if you think you're the one that does the healing, you have a right to be scared. But you have to remember that you have a colleague, and the colleague is the physician within that patient who knows what this is all about. And if you, with love, work towards finding out from that aspect of your patient what you're dealing with, that physician within the patient, as your colleague, will do the healing. You do the work you need to do, which is amazing. Orthopedic surgery is huge. It's just absolutely amazing. But then you support the physician within that patient as they do the healing. That woman with the purse could never do anything, that would never heal until in front of my face, she did something that taught us both where the problem was coming from.
And so you were one of the founders of the Holistic Medicine Society. Is that the correct name?
Association,
sorry.
Yeah. No.
And you definitely, I listened to you say you had lots of arguments about spelling it, whether it was going to be spelled WHOLISTIC or HOLISTIC. And the HOLISTIC has become the way, right?
Right.
And you owe, your parents were missionaries. I believe you're a Presbyterian.
Yeah.
Christian. You can tell me if I got that wrong, but that's what.
No, it doesn't matter. That's what.
And how important, I guess it's interesting because Australians aren't quite as Christian as many Americans are. You guys have a very strong faith in America. We're a lot more, what would you call it? Agnostic. There's certainly different traditions, Muslims, Buddhists, Christians, Catholics, all kinds here. Right. But do you believe that the sense of God, no matter what your religion is, whether you're Christian or Buddhist or whatever, is that sense of God and transcendence really important to what you describe as love?
It's the essence of love. God is love. It's the very essence of why different people can do and understand God in so many different ways, because that's how they can understand love. See, I have this kind of idea. It's just my idea. This has nothing to do with theology or anything. When God created the earth, okay, it was his job to create the earth, and he created this beautiful structure that was the whole universe. And part of that was the earth, but he looked at it and it was great. And so then he created the human being. And he said to us, you are the only living creatures on this earth, beautiful earth as it is, that have free choice and free will. So therefore, I give you dominion over the whole thing. And we, in our arrogance, thought he said dominance. And so we have stepped in and we've taken over the earth and done our whatever we've done, and we've done our share. And Mother Earth is teaching us a lot about it right now. But that whole idea that there is this amazing energy, call it God, call it Buddha, call it whatever name you need to give it, it's that energy that is there, and it's what allows us to be who we are. And when you think about, see, I think that the people that I'm talking to now around the world, I think we are reaching for our true humanity. I think when E.T. was he wanted to go home,
Yeah.
And so I think all of us have that inner urge that's reaching back for who we really are. And as we do that, we have amazing experiences.
That's
and I'm calling it now living medicine.
Yeah. So talk me through this, because you still have a 10-year plan in place, and I believe your 10-year plan includes this Centre for Living Medicine. Tell me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right.
But talk me through your vision for it. What does it do, and why is it important?
I think we need a community. Every one of us needs to find our own community. And the problem is that we're looking, and we're not finding the same people that are thinking the same way as we're wanting to be thinking, as we're reaching towards. However, if we're doing that, and if we're looking for it, we find them. And when we find the people that we can laugh and sing and dance with, we find our own community. And it's in pulling together this unity of human energy, which is looking for its true humanity. And I think we're in an amazing time right now. I think that's COVID did that for us partly. It made us go home and pay attention to some things that we thought were just nonsense, or whatever we thought.
Yeah. And so one of the other amazing things I read about you is that I think you were in your 80s, and you said you didn't want to retire until you had something to retire to. And you went and helped Afghani women, I believe. Talk to me about that. Talk to me about that work and what you did.
Well, my brother, Carl, was a physician who started Future Generations. He graduated from Harvard, and his Future Generations has created these healing centers around the world. And in 2006, was that it? Because I was, anyway, he was working with the women in Afghanistan, except for the fact that they couldn't find out why the maternal mortality was higher in Afghanistan than any other place on the earth. And so he said to me, "You're talking about retiring. Why don't you come over here and spend some time and see because you're a woman and you could get into the zananas, the places where women live, because the women aren't in Afghanistan, or are not allowed to go out and find what they need to find." So I had the privilege of doing that. So with the Future Generations, they rented a house for a week long in different parts of Afghanistan. And we would invite women from 10 different villages in that area to come, and 2 women from each village, and come and spend the week with us. And so we lived in this house. We ate together, we slept together, but they told their stories. No one had ever been able to get them to tell their stories. Oh. They never thought it was important. And we not only had them tell their stories, we tracked them and had them on a grid. So for each woman, we had, if she had 13 pregnancies, we knew what happened with each pregnancy, whether, it was a miscarriage or whatever it was. But we got the statistics, And then I had the amazing opportunity of having them tell their birth stories and found out how they were birthing their babies. And then I was able to tell them what was really going on during a pregnancy and during labor, because they had no idea. They knew how they got pregnant, but what happened after that was like, you know what's food you're digesting in your stomach right now, it was like that. They knew nothing about it. All of a sudden the baby is ready to be born and you got to get them born. And what we found out was that when the woman got pregnant, she was kept from eating anything that had calcium in it, the yogurt, the eggs, carrots, so that by the time she was in labor, they would talk about being in labor, they would do this. Well, that's post not having enough calcium in your body that you have tetany. So all their muscles had gone into spasm when they're in labor, and once they started in labor, they weren't given anything to eat or drink.
Oh my gosh.
Until the baby was born. And so I had the opportunity to explain to them about the sperm and the ovum and what the uterus looked like and what I had a piece of blackboard that was about a foot square and a piece of chalk, and I was able to diagram this. And I had the wonderful opportunity of having Afghani woman physician, a rare gem, Shukriya Hassan, who she was able to interpret what I was saying to the women and what they were saying to me. So we had the communication going, and it was absolutely amazing. We had the best time. And on midway in the week on Wednesday, they had said to me that they wanted me to come and up to the top of, we were already at 10,000 feet, but they wanted me to come up to the top of the mountain and see where the spring was that brought the water down to their village. And I said, well, I am 86 and I have an artificial hip, and I don't think I can. And they said, no, not to worry, they bring me a donkey. So they did. The next morning, there's this donkey, and they hiked me up and put me on the donkey. It doesn't have any saddle, and I'm sitting on the donkey. And but they had blankets on the donkey, so I could hang on to them on either side. And I've got a wonderful picture of as the donkey's going up the hill, and I'm sitting on that kind of wobbly. One of the women reaches over and grabs hold of me, and her arm is like this. She's hanging on to my bra, and she's holding me on the donkey, and we're going up and down the hill. When I came home, that bra was just, I threw it away. Anyway, we had a wonderful trip up the mountain and saw the spring and all of this. But that night, the women were all dancing around. And I said, I got to get a picture. No, you can't take a picture of this, because if our husbands knew we were doing this, we'd be in real trouble.
Wow. And things have gotten bad in Afghanistan again, haven't they? The girls aren't allowed to go to school again. Things were probably opening up in 2006, but now things have gotten bad again.
Yeah, the Taliban has taken over again. It's
very sad.
But, it's wonderful. Women are so great. These 32 women in each of these groups would go home and teach what they knew, what they had learned. And the maternal mortality rate has gone way down.
Wow. Yeah, because that's amazing.
We women know how to do that. Yeah. We when women learn things, they teach it.
Yeah.
And so that's what the Afghani women did. And they went back to their villages and they taught, and things changed.
That's amazing. And talk to me about so you talked about you had an artificial hip, and I've seen the footage of you do 3,800 steps a day. Are you still committed to your steps every day?
With my walker,
Yeah.
you understand.
I know, but that makes it even harder, right?
I'm not hiking. Yeah, I don't always make it, but I try to get that much in it because my body needs to move.
Yeah. Yeah. And you also talked about how you live upstairs. So you go up and downstairs every day as well.
Yeah, where we are, my bed is right over here at the left. And, you know, it's right up on, and we're talking my bedroom.
That's good. And so in terms of getting older, what types of physical differences have you learned to adapt to?
Well, my eyes, I don't see very well. So my vision is dimmed, but it hasn't done anything to my insight. My actual vision may be having problems, but my insight has improved in many different ways. I'm understanding things that I never understood before.
Like what?
Yeah. So and I have hearing aids, and I've had surgery for my eyes and all, do the things that I have to do to get, and then about 3 months ago, I had an infusion of stem cells.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I think that's helped just sort of maintain. I haven't found that I'm just running up my steps, but I'm still coming up my steps up and down during the day, and stuff. You know, it's a matter of being aware that I'm still able to do things that in fact, when I had my 102nd birthday, is that it? Yeah. I rode in on a tricycle.
I saw some vision of that. And
Yeah.
I saw you riding your tricycle, and I've seen them here in Australia. I've seen them used a lot up in Queensland, where we have a lot of retirees. And, you know, it's very stable and quite a good way to get around, right?
Great, yeah.
So how often do you ride your tricycle?
Well, right now it's been too hot to ride. In Arizona, it's been 115 and stuff like that. So it's just coming down. So now I'm going to be able to start again. So it's, you know, and I just ride it in my yard here. It's a beautiful yard. My daughter's husband, who was a retired Greek chef, has turned into an amazing gardener, and he's planted fruit trees and flowers and everything. We have a paradise here.
That's beautiful. So do you live with one of your daughters? Is that who you live with?
My youngest daughter she's a physician, and she and I were partners all the time that I was working after Bill left. But when she was 2, and my husband Bill was a doctor too, you know. So when she was 2, she came up to us one day, and we're standing there, my husband Bill and I, and she looks at me and she looks at him and she says, last time when I was a doctor, I was a daddy doctor, not a mommy doctor. And I said, well, ooh la la.
So did she believe that she'd been a doctor in a previous life?
Yeah.
And now she is a doctor. That's even funny.
Yeah.
And now talk me through that, because no one gets out of life scot-free. There's always going to be challenges and issues along the way. And I mean, you know, I've heard you tell the story of your husband. I think you were 70 when he decided to leave you for
after 46 years.
I'm on my second husband now, so I totally understand how hard that is. And at that point, I loved the story you told about, you found it very painful. Obviously, it's a massive, betrayal, and it's very difficult to deal with. But you tell the story of how you were crying and screaming on your drive home, and then you suddenly heard something and you decided to transform and change it. And from then on, you had your license plate that said, "Be glad."
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
Well, I was really broken. I mean, I was devastated, and the universe wasn't working right, and I was screaming in my car. I was just letting God or whoever it was in charge of things. I just had to let this out. I was howling like the coyotes in our desert here. Anyway, all of a sudden, I pulled over to the side of the road and I stopped my car. And the verse, "This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it." And I said, well, okay, grow up. You got to be glad. And I went home and changed my license plate, so it said "Be glad." And I was driving around Phoenix from that point on, so that not only did I have to understand that I had to be glad, but anybody behind me who was coming along and saw my license plate would see the "Be glad."
I think it's a beautiful, beautiful story. I just love that story.
Well, it set me on the right track. It didn't completely set me free. It took me time to learn that what I was really looking back on when I finally got the message from it was the amount of work that Bill and I had done together, the amazing time that we had had together. And then he took a vacation. So I just let him go. I just said, okay, and once I got that understanding, then I've been able to work with it in a way that I wasn't able to before.
Yeah. And I mean, life is full of challenges, right? And certainly a marriage breakdown, especially after 46 years, is particularly devastating. But you had 6 children and you were a doctor. How did you fit it all in? I mean, you had a busy life, right?
One breath at a time, here's the thing. I've created 5 L's that have helped me sort of put things in structure. Okay.
Yep.
And the first L is life. Without life, nothing would be worth anything. And the second one is love. Yeah. Life and love together are essential. They can't function without the other. You have a seed in the pyramid that's been there for 5,000 years and can't do anything until love, in the form of water and sunlight and so on, activates it. And then all of the energy of the universe comes through and it can do what it needs to do. So life and love are like a pregnancy. The pregnancy has the essence of the baby and the mother, and everything the mother eats and thinks and does, the baby does. They're one unit. This one unit as a pregnancy is there. It's life, it's growing, it's femifesting, it's becoming what it is. And the baby becomes a unit, a person, when he takes its first breath. It's that importance of life, nurturing life until it's strong enough to take its own breath and then become who it is. It's that duality that's important. And the third L is laughter. Laughter without love is mean. It's cruel. Families are torn apart with it. Wars are created. You know, it's just mean. But laughter with love is joy and happiness.
Yes.
And you ask how I was able to do all of these things. It's the whole next one is labor.
Yeah.
Labor without love is, oh man, I got too many diapers, you know, it's too hard. I got to go to work and so on. But labor with love is bliss. Yeah. It's why you do what you do. We work 7 times as hard when we're doing something that is it enables us to be who we are and yeah. gives us the energy to do it that we would ever be able to do if we didn't have it.
Yes.
And the 5th one is listening. Listening without love is an empty sound, the clanging gong. But with love, it's understanding. So when I got those 5 L's in place, it helped me to structure some of my thinking a little bit. And it makes a difference when you're able to think things through and put the things that are happening in your life in context with that. It really helps.
And would you say those 5 tips, your 5 L's, they are one of the keys to success, to not just living so long and so well, but to working happily, to parenting happily, to all those pieces?
Well, they've certainly helped me.
Yeah.
You know, the things that I learned from my mother, the importance of not taking everything in and making it a tragedy. You know, if something happens to you, but my sister and I, we've got that story too. But the whole business of kuchpurwane, which means it doesn't matter. Somebody says something nasty to you, you can take it in and say, oh, that's awful. And you hang on to it and it becomes more awful. And then you tell somebody about it and it becomes terrible. And you know it, you know, or they can say it and it's really not worth fussing about. And you can just say, kuchpurwane, it doesn't matter, and let it go. It's really helped a lot. It's helped me a lot with watching what my kids did as they were growing up. You know, my number 4 son is a psychologist. He was 3 years old and he came in and he says to me, Mama, I know something. And I said, what's that, Bobby? He says, if I make a friend and he makes a friend and he makes a friend, it's going to go all around the world and come back to me. Of course he's a psychologist, you know. And then my second son, John, who's the Presbyterian minister, he was 7 and he walked in one day and he says, I wish Jesus was here. And I says, well, I kind of do too, but why you? And he says, because I have questions. And I says, well, ask me, maybe I can help you. Oh, he says, you don't understand. And I said, well, ask me, maybe I can. So he says, okay, how can God be if you never got started? And I said, well, maybe it's like a circle. It doesn't have a beginning and an end. He says, I knew you didn't have the answers because
That's beautiful. I'm going to start wrapping this up now because I'm using my allotted time to talk to you. It's been such a pleasure. You are an absolute delight. And I love your jewelry as well. It's all very beautiful. You look amazing.
Thank you.
And I will email through the link to my piece once I've published it and got it live. But yeah, I've absolutely enjoyed your book and my chat with you. It's been a real privilege to talk with you. So I hope you have a beautiful evening in Arizona, and I hope it cools down enough to get a good night's sleep.
Well, we have air conditioning. So
That's all right then. So thank you so much for your time. You've been a delight.
Thank you. It was a joy.
Thank you. Have a good day. See you.